All right. So Bon, a midweek brief on the match query, where we would just want to see a quick review of the Carabao Cup second leg semi-finals. That's Arsenal versus Chelsea and Newcastle United versus Manchester City. Both games seem to be like the opposite of each other. So
Night and day.
night and day, basically, yes. So, but first of all, we saw Arsenal and Chelsea take a very pragmatic gamble when they went toe to toe on Tuesday nights. What are your thoughts on their approach? There are some people who have had very negative opinions about Liam Rosenau approach to the game. What do you think?
Okay, so I'll even start with the lineup. When I actually saw the lineup, there were no natural wingers in that lineup. There was a
Yeah.
bit of confusion as to what is Rosenau trying to implement here. It looked like a 3-5-2 to me, where it was playing Liam Delap up the right flank, right? And Pedro was actually going to the middle. So in a way, Kurela, that was the left wing back, was actually doubling as a left winger in some instances. But as you said, it was quite pragmatic. The idea made sense, or on paper it made sense. Rosenone couldn't go toe to toe with Arsenal, like play them at their own game or open up because Arsenal have the quality to cause issues. And we kept them at bay for the first 45 minutes. They
Yeah.
didn't really have a whiff as much. Yeah, that goal, right? There were no like clear cut chances. But what he
Uh-huh.
also did was actually hinder Chelsea themselves because we were pragmatic. We did not show any bites in attack. We didn't show any um vigor to stick the ball to them. I think the game plan was hold it for about 60 minutes and bring in some attacking talents to then take the game to them. Because of course the deficit was one goal. So if I like gotten the one goal, could hold up, go to penalty shootouts or even still take the game to them. It's just unfortunate it didn't work out that way. And we ended up conceding a goal to a defensive lapse. And it's one of the things with Chelsea. Since the Bluco era, we have been a defensive generator. Something has
Yeah.
just been up. We could play the best games and then we just lack concentration defensively and everything scatters.
True.
But we've seen a lot of backlash. I know you should have gone, should have attacked them. But you need to be a big club. This is Chelsea. For me, all those is just emotional agenda because we see the polar opposites. Newcastle taking the game to City and they
Yeah.
swallowed 3 goals in the first half. So sometimes it's not very easy to say these things. As Rosen actually said, it's easy to just talk and be a pundit, but it's different when you're actually in the field of play. You get his game plan, as we said on
Yeah.
paper, made sense. You need to be more pragmatic. He didn't have the amount
I
of
think
tools he had. There was no Rhys James as well, and there was no Pedro Neto. So
I really agree with you. You said something. Now, this is my take. I still do believe that we are Chelsea and we expect the kind of best outcome. But reality is, we are not the Chelsea we used to be. We are not at that very best which we can be. But let's forget about the
yeah, true.
scoreline for a second. Just for a second. I'm not saying we should ignore it, but first for a second. Everyone is hammering that Liam Robson was being too cautious at the Emirates. But if you look at the tactical board, he almost pulled off a masterpiece. Let's be honest. If
Yes,
he
he almost
scored
did.
one, goes into extra time, and wins it on penalty, that's just a big if. The narrative would be different.
Yes,
First of all, he ditched his usual 4-2-3-1 system and went for a pragmatic 3-5-2, right? And he tried to choke Arsenal's transitional movement, which is, honestly, let's be honest, it's the best in Europe this season. The
yes,
data, the stats show that what they've done in Europe, what they've done in the Premier League, what they've done in the cup competitions shows just how good they really are. You look at how he put it. If he had gone for a smash and grab in the last few minutes, which was what actually led to Kai Havertz's goal, if you watch the game.
yeah.
So if you pull that off, he becomes a genius, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when you don't, you go out with a win. You look like someone who had no idea what you're doing. But make no mistake, he
Exactly.
had a very good idea what he was doing, right? And like you rightly said, Chelsea grew into the game, right? And then we saw them develop. We saw them stifle Arsenal. Arsenal had only 2 shots on target before the goal in
Yes.
the whole game, right? That is something you must take into account. And then in the second half, you can see the plan was very clear. He brings on Cole Palmer and Esteval, and he immediately goes back to his 4-2-3-1 that he has used successfully in other games. Yep. And he goes back to the 4-3-1 he has used successfully in other games after bringing up Cole Palmer and Esteval on another night, if they were fortunate, right? But we give it to Arsenal. Arsenal showed their class.
Yes, they did. The
Let's
draft now
not
this
ignore
season.
the fact that even Mikel Arteta was pragmatic, right? He didn't go all out simply because Chelsea were being pragmatic as well. We must recognize that. And that has earned them the best defensive setup in the whole of Europe this year. And we cannot ignore all of that. It's just that when it doesn't come off, you look really stupid and people can question you, right? But let's not forget, Chelsea have lost to Arteta 10 times. 8 other losses belong to managers that preceded Rosenio. He cannot be
Yes,
that. We cannot use that game because I think the backlash is not because we lost. The backlash is because people do not believe he's qualified for the job. At the root
that
of that
actually is
backlash,
another.
it's
That's
not
actually
about the
another.
game. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's not.
when you say that's another point, exactly how would you express that?
But then, I actually agree with you. First of all, people don't like pragmatic Chelsea, in as much as you hear people say, "Oh, the old Chelsea you get was more smash and grab." You
Mhm.
get, but sometimes when it happens, people don't really like to see it on paper or see it play out in the game. But
Yeah.
this is a guy that has played 8 games so far and has won 6 of those games. 2 losses, he
Mhm.
has not drawn any game. The 2 losses he has had is to Mikel Arteta. And of
Mhm.
course, is a Mikel Arteta Arsenal that have been one of the best team in Europe so far.
Yeah. Across all
Best team
competitions,
across
across
all
all
by
teams.
every performance standard, that the best team.
Yeah.
And he did something in the first half. He took the game to Arsenal in the first leg, and he made
And
us
it became a
concede
goal
those three
galore, a
goals.
3-2 goal galore.
Yeah, if not for a Garnacho masterclass in the second half or so, getting us 2 goals back. If not for like a Garnacho masterclass getting us 2 goals back, we would have probably lost that game 3-0 or 3-1.
Very
You
true.
get, or
Accurate.
not even score any goal. So it's had to tweak it to say, okay, let's try a different route. Let's be pragmatic and see how we can get a win. He did all he could, to, in my own opinion. It doesn't define him as a manager. And anyone trying to use the performance to define his managerial stints is just, I don't know, probably tapping.
Yeah. So I'll just hold that thought. I want to say something. We go to Wednesday when Newcastle plays Manchester City. Manchester City hosted Newcastle. Newcastle sets up exactly the same system Rosenior works with. He ditches his 4-3-3 system the same way Rosenior ditches 4-2-3-1 system. He goes for a
Yeah.
3-5-2 system the same way Rosenior went for
Mm-hmm.
a 3-5-2 system. The
Five
difference
two.
was a highline horror in which they believe because Manchester City had struggled that they could play a highline, focus on a press that would help them recover the ball early, and then try to
Mm-hmm.
beat Manchester United. That was the game plan.
Yes.
But the same thing Rosenio played against, Eddie Howe comes all out and takes 3 goals in the first 31 minutes. Three
Yes.
goals in the first 31 minutes. In 31 minutes, the tie is up because Manchester City are 5 goals up on aggregate. And there is no way back. Newcastle now doubt the all-out form and try to become a little bit conservative as the game goes on, trying to fall back into what they know how to do, which is blocking channels, pressing in the
And if
middle,
you look at
not
that,
higher.
City don't need to play you anymore. You already have five goals to the good. So
Yeah,
they don't see a need to play as much or putting more effort into playing you or beating you up. So that's already the dynamics to the tactical approaches that you can see from Rosen and Eddie Howe, where one
yeah.
manager decides to say, you know what, I still have some juice to get from this game. It's just
Mhm.
it gets, let me try this approach and see if it works. And as you rightly said, if we got a goal in and it was
Yeah,
3-3, the game actually opens up. You could
dynamic
see that
changes.
kind of fire. You can see that kind of fire from how he came back against a West Ham team. That kind of fire gets instilled into the team where the coach say, look, we've got 3-3. We can take this game to them. And those kind of
Okay,
things, what it causes for the opposition is a bit of panic as well.
yeah. So, okay, just a little bit of focus on Manchester City right now. We saw Pep Guardiola do something unique in that second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-finals, where he played a fluid system in which
Yes.
Reinders and Foden occupied all the half spaces. We saw that with Reinders covering 92% pass completion. He had a goal and an assist. And then he also was busting forward, exploiting every space that Newcastle left open. What do you think? Okay, so I was going to ask, what do you think about that? Because the 4 men in the middle in the Pep Guardiola system, having Foden and Reinders taking up all the space, and Omar Mamouche acting as a modern day number 9, who is not an out-and-out 9, and he's not,
Mhm.
I mean, he's just all over the place up front,
Into channels and exploiting channels.
running into channels, working on the spaces, pulling defenders left, right, center. These 3 particular players left Newcastle in tatters within the first 30 minutes.
Yes,
How
I
do you
think
think such tactical nuance helps Manchester City moving forward, given how they've been this season?
yeah, and it's actually something I kind of mentioned in passing during a conversation with some guys too, and they we're discussing about popping center backs and the likes. And I
Yeah,
brought up the Bernardo Silva enigma, where he plays and occupies special positions, but then he actually leaves spaces. One of the things
yeah,
that happened in that first 1 minute is fluidity. There was a dynamism in the way City pressed the ball, won it, and attacked. It was so fast that Newcastle couldn't keep up. And that is something that I think we missed in a Pep team this season. That
yeah.
dynamism where you see a Reinders, a Foden, and a Mamouche not being static to any position. You get
Mm-hmm.
Mahmoud was at the left wing in some of those plays. He ran into the 9 position. Sometimes he's in the number 10 and he runs
Yeah.
again to the 9 and then he runs again to the left. And right, that
Mm-hmm.
is occupying the spaces that Mamouche is leaving. You get so it's a very, very fluid system. And if you look at the best coaches or the top coaches this season from an Enrique perspective as well, or to an Ateta's perspective, even Roseno, that was one of the things that helped Roseno in the second half.
Yeah.
You get even against Napoli too. He went to a 3-1-6 where he was pressing with almost 6 people. Yet he was bombarding the ball, bombarding them against low blocks as well. So you could say that even though Newcastle were trying to be pragmatic, there was too much bodies in their own half. There was too
Yeah.
much bodies in the defensive third. City were fluid, there was dynamic. Even if you wanted to mark them, the dynamism in switching
Yeah.
positions will cause trouble for any team.
Okay, so just to wrap this up, we can say that Newcastle fell into the trap of exactly what Liam Rosenau was avoiding with Chelsea. They tried to be brave
Yes,
and
they
they
did.
were utterly humiliated by Manchester City
Mhm,
before halftime. The whole
mhm.
setup made sure that players like Mamouche had 4 shots on target, won 88% of his sprints. I mean, 88% of his sprints, there were loads of
88% is a
spaces to
lot.
explore.
There was
Yeah, and
space to
that just
exploit. It was
ultimately
actually a
meant
lot.
that, yeah, that ultimately meant that Ilanga's 1 minute goal was nothing more than a mere consolation because City were already done and dusted with a tie before that time. So
Yes.
that means we have an Arsenal City final, 2 different paths to get
Mm-hmm.
there. One through gritty, pragmatic system, and the other one basically through offensive annihilation of Newcastle. So for those of us
Yeah. And
listening,
the funny thing, I'm actually torn. I'm even torn with that particular final now because
yeah,
there's a record there where Arteta has not lost a game as a manager or as a coach at Wembley. And of
mhm,
course, we've spoken so much on this podcast about how history and heritage comes into play. And I don't now
yeah.
know if Pep can decide to say he wants to spoil the fun. So let's see how that goes.
So any last thoughts from you, Bon?
So we'll look forward to the Carabao final. I think that should be around March, if I'm not mistaken, March
Yeah.
21st or 22nd, thereabout. To look forward to that final, it's going to be at Wembley. We'll be seeing 2 giants. Teta is giant in his own right this season, done very well. It's an Arsenal team that have been very good offensively, very good defensively. Some people will say, oh, they've been scoring for majorly set pieces. See, scrap that stuff. The fact that you can put your opposition in positions where they concede own goals and concede a lot of corner kicks, it's down to the tactical brilliance of pressure. So we look forward to that final and see how it goes. I'm not picking any winner right now. It's too early.
All right. So yeah, this has basically been like the match query plus, and we hope to see you guys at Wembley on March 22nd. We believe there'll be sparks. We believe there'll be fireworks. We believe either Arteta wins a trophy or Pep Guardiola continues his fantastic run as an amazing, probably the best manager in the world. So stay tuned. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram, and get ready for our full-blown podcast coming out this weekend. Ciao.
Thank you guys.